A 7-year-old girl chased her soccer ball into a Hells Angels clubhouse. On her way out, she noticed something the bikers had missed for days, a tiny red light blinking behind a vent. "There's a camera up there," she said. They laughed. Then they checked. What that camera revealed would expose a $1 million conspiracy to destroy their club, frame them for crimes they didn't commit, and steal the community park they'd protected for decades. The man behind it all never imagined his perfect plan would be unraveled by a child who still looked up. If this satisfies your heart, please like, comment and follow. Sophia Madison saw things, not ghosts or visions or anything supernatural, just things, small things, things that adults walked past 1,000 times without noticing, the crack in the sidewalk that looked like a rabbit, the way Mrs. Patterson's garden gnome had moved 3 inches to the left since last week, the spider building a web in the corner of the bus stop that nobody else seemed to see. Her mom called it observant. Her dad called it eagle eyes. Her teacher called it distracting, when Sophia spent math class counting the ceiling tiles instead of doing multiplication. Sophia just called it looking. Everyone else seemed to have forgotten how. Today, she was looking for her soccer ball. It had escaped during practice in Hawthorne Park, bounced off her foot wrong, rolled down the hill, and disappeared through the chain-link fence into the parking lot next door. The parking lot belonged to the Hells Angels. Every kid in the neighborhood knew about the bikers. They were big, loud, covered in tattoos. Their motorcycles lined up outside the old warehouse like sleeping dragons. Parents pulled their children to the other side of the street when they walked by. "Stay away from those men," Sophia's mom always said. "They're dangerous." But Sophia's ball was in there. Her favorite ball, the purple one with stars that Dad had given her for her birthday. She looked around. No adults watching, no one to tell her no. Sophia squeezed through a gap in the fence. The parking lot was empty. Well, empty of people. The motorcycles were there, dozens of them, chrome gleaming in the afternoon sun. Sophia walked between them carefully, searching for purple among all that silver and black. There, by the garage door. Her ball had rolled all the way inside, stopping against a toolbox in the corner. Sophia hesitated. The garage door was open. She could see inside, workbenches, more motorcycles in various states of repair, a couch that looked older than her grandfather, and men, 3 of them, sitting around a table, playing cards. They hadn't noticed her yet. Sophia weighed her options. She could leave the ball, go home, tell Dad what happened and maybe he'd come get it. But that was her favorite ball. And these men, they didn't look dangerous. They looked like they were having fun. One of them was laughing at something another had said. Sophia walked inside. "Excuse me." All 3 heads turned. The laughter stopped. "I'm sorry to bother you," Sophia said, using her most polite voice, the one she used when asking for extra dessert. "My ball rolled in here. The purple one. Can I get it, please?" The men stared at her. This tiny girl, maybe 4 feet tall, pigtails, grass-stained knees, standing in the middle of a Hells Angels garage like she belonged there. Then one of them, the biggest, with a beard that touched his chest, started to laugh. "Well, I'll be damned. We got ourselves an intruder." "A very polite intruder," another added. "The politest we've ever had." Sophia didn't understand why they were laughing, but they didn't seem angry. She pointed at her ball. "Can I have it back, please?" The bearded man stood up. He was enormous, easily the biggest person Sophia had ever seen. But he moved carefully, slowly, like he didn't want to scare her. "This your ball, little one?" "Yes, sir. It's my favorite. My dad gave it to me." He picked it up, examined it like it was a precious artifact. "Purple with stars. Good choice." He tossed it to her gently. "There you go." "Thank you." Sophia caught it, hugged it to her chest. She should leave now, should go back through the fence and pretend this never happened. But something caught her eye, a small red light, blinking, up near the ceiling behind a ventilation duct. "What's that?" she asked, pointing. The men looked up, looked where she was pointing. "What's what?" "That light, the red one. It keeps blinking. The bearded man squinted. "I don't see anything. It's right there, behind the silver tube thing. See? Blink, blink, blink." One of the other men, younger, with tattoos covering both arms, stood up and walked closer. He craned his neck, trying to see what the little girl was seeing. "Holy hell," he said quietly. "There's a camera up there." The room went silent. Not the comfortable silence of before. This was different. Tense. Electric. "What did you say?" the bearded man asked. "There's a camera, right where she's pointing. Mini wireless, looks like. High-end stuff." "That's impossible. We swept this place 2 weeks ago." "Well, someone swept it after us." The bearded man, Sophia would later learn his name was Dean McCrae, president of the Hawthorne Park chapter, moved fast for someone his size. He grabbed a ladder from the corner, climbed up, and reached behind the duct. When his hand came back, it was holding something small and black, a device no bigger than a matchbox, with a tiny lens and that blinking red light. Son of a bitch. He climbed down, placed the camera on the table, stared at it like it might bite him. "This isn't ours." "Obviously not. Which means someone's been watching us. Recording our meetings. For how long?" The younger biker, Sophia would learn his name was Razor, pulled out his phone and started examining the device. "It's still transmitting. Live feed. Whoever planted this is watching right now." Dean's face went dark. "Not anymore." He crushed the camera under his boot. Then he turned to Sophia, who had been watching all of this with wide eyes, still clutching her purple ball. "What's your name, little one?" "Sophia. Sophia Madison." "Sophia, do you know what you just found?" Sophia shook her head. "Neither do I, but I'm going to find out." He crouched down to her level, his voice softening. "You did good, kid, real good. Now I need you to go home and not tell anyone about this. Can you do that?" "Why?" "Because if the wrong people know we found their camera, they might try something else, something worse." Dean's eyes were serious. "This is grown-up stuff, Sophia. Dangerous stuff, you understand?" Sophia nodded slowly. She understood more than he thought, understood that she had stumbled into something big, something scary. "Okay, I won't tell anyone." "Good girl." Dean stood up. "Razor, walk her out. Make sure she gets back to the park safe." "On it!" Razor led Sophia toward the door, but before she left, she turned back. "Mr. Dean?" "Yeah? There might be more. Cameras, I mean. You should check everywhere. That one wasn't very well hidden, just in a spot nobody looks. But if someone wanted to really hide them, they'd put them in places adults never notice." Dean stared at her. "And where would those places be?" Sophia thought about it. About all the places she found things. Forgotten corners, high shelves, behind things that hadn't moved in years. Low places, adults look at eye level. They forget to look down and up. Kids look everywhere. The room was silent again. Then Dean smiled. It was the first real smile he'd given since the camera was discovered. "Razor, get her dad's number before she leaves. I think we're going to need her help." Gary Madison was not the kind of man who expected phone calls from Hell's Angels. He was an electrician, a good one. 30 years in the trade, his own small business, a reputation for honest work. He fixed wiring in homes and offices and occasionally in places that made his wife nervous, but he had never fixed anything for the bikers. "Mr. Madison, my name is Dean McCrae. Your daughter found something in my garage today, something important. I was hoping we could talk." Gary's blood ran cold. "Is Sophia okay?" "She's fine. More than fine. She might have saved our entire club, but I need your help to figure out how." 1 hour later, Gary was standing in the Hells Angels garage, looking at the crushed remains of a surveillance camera while his 7-year-old daughter drew a map of the building on a napkin. "She sees things," Gary explained. "Always has. Notices details nobody else catches." "I noticed." Dean handed him the camera fragments. "This is professional equipment, military grade almost. Someone spent serious money to spy on us." Gary examined the pieces. His electrician's mind started working. "Wireless transmitter, short range, maybe 200 feet. There has to be a relay nearby, something boosting the signal to wherever it's actually being sent. Can you find it?" Maybe, if you let me bring some equipment. Bring whatever you need, and bring the kid. Gary hesitated. She's 7. She's the only one who saw that camera. There might be more. I need eyes that work better than ours. Nah. The search took 3 hours. Gary swept the building with signal detectors, while Sophia crawled into spaces no adult would fit, under workbenches, behind shelving units, into the gap between the ceiling and the roof. She found 2 more cameras. One was in the bathroom, hidden in the light fixture. Another was in the office, disguised as a smoke detector. 3 cameras, Dean said when they gathered in the main room, all installed in the last 2 weeks, all watching our most private spaces. The signals converge here. Gary pointed to a spot on the map Sophia had drawn, about 150 feet northeast. That's where the relay has to be. That's the old storage units, been abandoned for years. Not abandoned anymore, apparently. Dean looked at his brothers, Razor, Piston, Mac, men he had ridden with for decades. Let's go see who's been watching us. The storage units were a row of rusted metal boxes behind a chain-link fence. Most were empty, doors hanging open, weeds growing through the concrete. But one was locked, Unit 7, a new padlock gleaming against the old metal. This is it? Dean asked. Gary checked his equipment. Signal's strongest here. Whatever's boosting those cameras is inside. Stand back. Dean pulled out bolt cutters and snapped the lock. The door swung open with a groan. What they found inside made everyone freeze. Boxes, dozens of them, all marked with the Hells Angels logo. What the hell? Razor pushed past Dean, started opening boxes. These are motorcycle parts, high-end stuff. Engines, exhaust systems, custom frames. Stolen parts, Max said, examining a serial number. I recognize this engine. It was reported stolen from a dealership in Phoenix 3 months ago. Someone planted evidence, Dean said slowly. They bugged our clubhouse, then filled a storage unit with stolen goods, all marked with our logo. But why? To frame us, make it look like we're running a trafficking operation. Dean's face was hard as stone. When the cops find this, we're all going to prison. Who would do this? Sophia, who had been quietly looking around while the adults talked, tugged on her father's sleeve. Dad, there's papers over here. She pointed to a corner where a filing cabinet sat, half hidden behind boxes. Gary opened it. Inside were folders, dozens of them. Property records, zoning applications, a map of Hawthorne Park with the clubhouse circled in red, and a name repeated on document after document, Grant Development Corporation. Preston Grant, Dean said, reading over Gary's shoulder, the real estate guy. He's been trying to buy this land for years. Looks like he got tired of waiting. He's going to frame us for trafficking, get us shut down, then swoop in and buy the property for nothing. Dean slammed the filing cabinet shut. Son of a bitch has been planning this for months. What do we do? Dean looked at the evidence around them, at the cameras that had been watching, at the trap that had been set. Then he looked at Sophia, who was still clutching her purple soccer ball, looking up at him with curious eyes. We beat him at his own game, Dean said. We've got his playbook now. We know what he's planning, and we've got something he doesn't. What's that? Dean smiled grimly. A 7-year-old with better eyes than his entire operation. He crouched down to Sophia's level. How would you like to help us catch a bad guy? Sophia's face lit up. Really? Like a detective? Exactly like a detective. Dean extended his hand. Welcome to the team, Scout. Sophia shook it solemnly. She had come looking for a soccer ball. She had found something much more important. A mystery to solve, a family to protect, and a chance to prove that sometimes the smallest person sees the biggest picture. The investigation became Sophia's new favorite game. Every day after school, her dad would pick her up and drive to the clubhouse. While Gary worked with the bikers on tracking signals and documenting evidence, Sophia explored. She had a notebook now, a real detective's notebook given to her by Razor. She drew maps of the neighborhood, marking every place she found something suspicious, every camera she spotted, every wire that didn't belong. You're really good at this, Dean told her one afternoon, flipping through her notes. Better than most of my guys. I just look, Sophia said. It's not hard. It is for most people. They see what they expect to see. You see what's actually there. Sophia thought about that, about all the times adults had looked right past something obvious, about how easy it was to hide things in plain sight. Mr. Preston is counting on that, isn't he? Counting on nobody looking. Dean's eyebrows rose. That's exactly right. How'd you figure that out? Because that's how bullies work. At school, the mean kids do stuff right in front of teachers. But teachers don't see because they're not really looking. They're thinking about other things. Sophia shrugged. Mr. Preston is like a bully, just bigger. Dean stared at this 7-year-old girl who had just summarized the psychology of corporate criminals better than any analyst he'd ever met. Yeah, Scout, that's exactly what he is. And done. The evidence mounted over 2 weeks. Gary traced the camera signals to a relay station hidden in an abandoned gas station 3 blocks away. From there, the feed went to a server in an office building downtown, a building owned by Grant Development Corporation. Razor and Mac, posing as potential investors, got inside the building and photographed everything. Server rooms, security logs, a wall of monitors showing live feeds from a dozen properties around the city, including Hawthorne Park. He's not just targeting us, Dean told the assembled club. He's been doing this all over town, planting evidence, manipulating property values, forcing small businesses and community organizations out. How many properties? At least 15 that we can confirm, all bought by Grant Development after the original owners were either arrested, foreclosed, or scared into selling. Son of a bitch has been running this scheme for years, and getting away with it because nobody looked close enough. Dean glanced at Sophia, who was sitting in the corner with her tablet, mapping something. Until now. What's the play? We take this to the cops? The cops won't do anything. Half of them are probably on Grant's payroll. Dean shook his head. We need to go public. Make it impossible to ignore. How? There's a city council meeting next week. They're voting on rezoning Hawthorne Park for commercial development. Grant's going to be there pushing his project. So we show up and present our evidence? Not us. Dean smiled. Them. He pointed at Sophia and Gary. A 7-year-old girl and her electrician father, exposing $1 million conspiracy. That's a story nobody can ignore. Sophia practiced her presentation every night. Her mom wasn't happy about any of this. Rebecca Madison had watched her husband and daughter disappear into a world of bikers and conspiracies with growing alarm. She's 7, Gary. 7. You can't put her in front of a city council to accuse a powerful man of crimes. She's the one who found everything. She understands it better than anyone. She's a child. She's the reason we have a case at all. Gary knelt beside his wife. I know this is scary. I know it's not normal. But Preston Grant is trying to destroy good people. He's been doing it for years, and our daughter, our observant, brilliant, fearless daughter, figured out how to stop him. Rebecca looked at Sophia, who was practicing in the living room mirror, tablet in hand, pointing at imaginary slides. And then the signal goes here, Sophia was saying, which is how we know the cameras were sending information to Mr. Grant's building. It's called a relay station. Dad taught me that word. Rebecca sighed. If anything happens to her, nothing will happen. Dean's got people watching the house, watching the school. Grant doesn't even know we're coming. You hope. I know. Gary took her hands. Trust me, trust her. She can do this. The night before the council meeting, Preston Grant made his move. He didn't know about Sophia, didn't know about the evidence. But he knew the bikers had found his cameras. His sources inside the police department had told him that much. So he accelerated his timeline. At 2 a.m., 4 police cars surrounded the Hells Angels clubhouse. A SWAT team breached the doors. Officers poured in, guns drawn, shouting orders. Everyone on the ground! This is a raid! Dean and the others complied. They had expected something like this, had prepared for it. What they hadn't expected was the news crew that arrived exactly 3 minutes later. Preston tipped off the media, Razor muttered, face pressed against the concrete floor. He's turning this into a show. The reporter was already broadcasting live. We're here at the Hawthorne Park Hells Angels Clubhouse, where police are conducting a raid based on evidence of a large-scale motorcycle parts trafficking operation. Dean watched his club being paraded in front of cameras, watched his brothers being led out in handcuffs, watched Preston Grant's plan unfold exactly as designed. "This is it," he said quietly. "This is how he wins." "Not yet." Razor's voice was urgent. "The kid, the evidence, the council meeting is in 8 hours. We're going to be in jail in 8 hours." "But she won't be." Dean's eyes widened. "Gary, Sophia, they have everything. Call them now, before they take our phones." Dean managed one text before an officer grabbed his phone. "Plan B. Sophia goes alone. We trust her." He didn't know if Gary received it. He could only hope. Gary got the message at 2:17 a.m. He read it twice, 3 times, trying to understand. Then he turned on the news and saw the raid. Saw Dean being led away in handcuffs. Saw the reporter talking about trafficking and organized crime. "Oh, God!" Rebecca appeared behind him. "What's happening?" "Grant moved early. He's having them all arrested, trying to shut this down before tomorrow." "So it's over." Gary looked at his phone. At Dean's message. "Sophia goes alone. We trust her." "No," he said slowly. "It's not over." He walked to Sophia's room, opened the door. She was asleep, hugging her detective notebook, dreaming whatever dreams 7-year-olds dream. He should let her sleep, should protect her from all of this, should find another way. But there wasn't another way. The bikers were in jail. The evidence was here. And in 8 hours, Preston Grant would get everything he wanted, unless someone stood up to stop him. Gary sat on the edge of the bed. "Sophia, wake up, sweetheart." Her eyes fluttered open. "Dad? What time is it?" "Early. Something's happened." He explained as simply as he could. The raid, the arrests, the message from Dean. "The meeting is still happening today, but Dean and the others won't be there." Sophia sat up, suddenly very awake. "So nobody's going to tell them about Mr. Preston?" "That's why I'm waking you up." Gary took her hands. "I know this is scary. I know you're just a kid, but you're the one who found everything. You know this case better than anyone. And right now, you might be the only one who can stop him." Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she got out of bed and started getting dressed. "Can I wear my nice dress? The blue one? Mum says I look professional in it." Gary felt tears prick his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, you can wear your nice dress." The city council chamber was packed. Preston Grant sat in the front row looking smug. His lawyers flanked him. His development plans were displayed on screens around the room. Everything was going exactly as he'd planned. The Hells Angels were in jail. The news was running stories about trafficking. By this afternoon, he'd have the rezoning approved, and by next month he'd own Hawthorne Park. The council chair called the meeting to order. "We have several items on the agenda today, beginning with the rezoning proposal for Hawthorne Park. Mr. Grant, would you like to present?" Preston stood, smoothing his expensive suit. "Thank you, Chairman. As you know, the current tenants of the Hawthorne Park property were arrested early this morning on serious criminal charges. This unfortunate situation only underscores the need for responsible development in our community. My proposal—" "Excuse me." A small voice, coming from the back of the chamber. Everyone turned. Sophia Madison stood in the doorway, wearing her blue dress, holding her tablet. Her father stood behind her, along with her mother, both looking nervous but determined. "Who is this?" the chairman asked. "My name is Sophia Madison. I'm 7 years old, and I have evidence that Mr. Grant is lying." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Preston Grant's face went pale. "This is ridiculous," he said. "She's a child. You can't—" "I have a right to speak," Sophia said, walking down the aisle. Her voice was steady, though her hands were shaking. "You're voting on something that affects my neighborhood. That's called civic participation. We learned about it in school." The council members looked at each other, uncertain. "Let her speak," someone called from the gallery. Then another voice, "Let the kid talk." The chairman held up his hand for silence. "Young lady, this is highly irregular, but you have 3 minutes." Sophia walked to the front of the chamber. She connected her tablet to the display system. something her father had showed her how to do the night before. 2 weeks ago, I found a camera hidden in the Hells Angels garage. Then I found 2 more. They were all sending video to a building owned by Mr. Grant. She clicked to the first slide. Photos of the cameras, serial numbers, purchase records that Razor had traced to a Grant subsidiary. We also found a storage unit full of stolen motorcycle parts. Someone put them there to make it look like the Hells Angels were criminals. But the lock on the unit was bought 3 weeks ago by a company called Grant Security Services. She clicked again. Receipts, photos, the paper trail that Gary had painstakingly documented. Mr. Grant has been doing this all over town, planting evidence, getting people arrested, then buying their property when they can't fight back. Click. A map showing 15 properties, all former community spaces, all now owned by Grant Development. He's not trying to help our neighborhood. He's trying to steal it. The chamber was silent. Preston Grant stood up, face red with fury. This is slander. This child is repeating lies told by criminals. I demand. I'm not repeating anything, Sophia said calmly. I saw the camera myself. I traced the signal myself. Well, my dad helped. But I did a lot of it. She looked at Grant directly. You hid your cameras in places you thought nobody would look. But I look everywhere. That's just how I am. This evidence is fabricated, manufactured by thugs trying to avoid prosecution. Then why is this video from your own building? Sophia clicked one more time. The screen showed security footage from Grant Development's headquarters. A man, clearly visible, clearly Preston Grant, reviewing surveillance feeds from the Hells Angels clubhouse, talking on the phone about planting the merchandise and making sure the timing was right for the raid. Razor had recorded it through a window during his reconnaissance mission. The chamber exploded, council members shouting, Preston Grant trying to escape, his lawyers looking shell-shocked, police officers moving to block the exits. Through it all, Sophia stood at the podium, clutching her tablet, watching the chaos she had unleashed. Her father appeared beside her. You did it, sweetheart. You actually did it. Mr. Dean said I had good eyes. I just showed everyone what I saw. That's exactly what heroes do. Epilogue. 6 months later. The mural covered the entire side of the Hells Angels clubhouse. A little girl in a blue dress, pointing upward, her face determined and curious. Above her hand, a single star, representing the camera she had spotted that started everything. Beneath the image, in bold letters, look closer. Preston Grant was in federal prison, convicted of conspiracy, fraud, racketeering, and illegal surveillance. His empire had crumbled, his assets seized, his corrupt network exposed. The Hells Angels were cleared of all charges. The storage unit evidence was thrown out. The trafficking case collapsed once prosecutors realized they'd been manipulated. Hawthorne Park remained a community space. The rezoning proposal was unanimously rejected. And Sophia Madison, Scout, became a local legend. Dean McCrae found her at the clubhouse one Saturday afternoon, sitting in her usual spot, writing in her detective notebook. What you working on? There's a weird car that's been parking near school. Different days, different spots, but always the same car. Sophia showed him her notes. Probably nothing, but I'm keeping track. Dean smiled. This kid, this incredible, observant, fearless kid. You know, we built something for you. Want to see? He led her to a corner of the garage that had been walled off. A door with a nameplate. Scout's Lab. Inside was a small room with a desk, a computer, maps covering the walls, and equipment for signal detection and surveillance analysis. Your own detective office, Dean said, for whenever you want to help us look closer. Sophia's eyes went wide. Really? This is mine. The club voted. Unanimous. You're the best eyes we've ever had, Scout. Figured you should have a proper workspace. He handed her something else, a small patch, the Hells Angels logo, modified with a star above it. Honorary member, the first kid to ever earn one. Sophia held the patch like it was made of gold. Thank you for trusting me, for letting me help. Thank you for for seeing what we couldn't. Dean ruffled her hair. Now come on. Your parents are waiting. Something about ice cream? Sophia grinned and ran for the door. Then she stopped, turned back, and looked up at the ceiling. The light in the corner is flickering. You might want to check that. Dean looked. Sure enough, a fluorescent light, barely visible, sputtering. How do you do that? Sophia shrugged. I just look. She ran outside to find her parents, leaving Dean shaking his head in amazement. Some people walked through life seeing only what they expected. Sophia Madison saw everything. And because of that, a community was saved, a conspiracy was exposed, and a group of bikers learned that sometimes the most powerful weapon against corruption is a child who never forgot how to look up. The end.